everybody! The GMG pregame show is about to start. Grab your favorite beverage of choice. Sit down. Get ready to communicate with us. And let's go! GMG's pregame show is about to start. That's what the countdown timer is for. Are you ready? The guys are ready to break down the game. Let's go, Vikings! Let's go! That means it's time. Skol! Everybody, it's Dave here, and we are back at it for another pregame show, the last game of the season. The Minnesota Vikings, your Minnesota Vikings, are taking a trip to Detroit City to play the Detroit Lions. Now, before we get this show started, I'm asking, please, do not spoil the present bowl game that's on. My partner in crime, the one in the prime position, has it on pause and he's DVRing it so he doesn't miss it. And he does not want to be spoiled as to who wins that contest. Without further ado, I'd like to say Skol Vikes to Clifford. And thanks for joining us, Clifford, especially on this wonderful Friday evening on the first day of 2021, which looks to be a great and fabulous new year. Hopefully, boatloads better than 2020. On my viewers far right, we have Mr. Darren Campbell from Two Old Bloggers. How you doing, Darren? How was your New Year's celebration?
Pretty good. Kind of low key, Dave. Went out for like a 5-course meal at a local old restaurant, and then went over to a friend's place just for the last 2 hours of New Year's to ring it in. And he's a bit of a musician, so he did a little live Facebook 4 or 5 song little play, and I didn't do any singing myself. I just stayed out of that.
Hey,
pretty good overall, though.
Good. And in the middle, the one and only, the bass ripper, Drew. How you doing tonight there, buddy, besides itching to get back to the football game?
Well, I was going to call in sick, and then I found out the great Darren Campbell's going to be on this show, and I said, there's no way I'm missing that shit. It's been a long time, but been on a show with Darren. Darren, we talk often, but not in the show mode. It's really great to have you on. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you guys all looking healthy.
I haven't sang "Oh Canada" da, 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 since I last had you on a podcast. It was that audio podcast with Man Bear. We did the trivia together. That's right.
Yep.
How the hell are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Just getting through another northern winter, doing the best I can.
Y'all fired up for this Lions game?
Yeah. No, I'm really pumped about that. No. Well, I might flip a coin to decide whether I watch it or not.
Well, we're going to find out if the Vikings finish 7-9 or 6-10.
Yeah, who cares?
Well, there's a reason we care, and it's right there. And I think that's all. That may have changed.
Where are we at? 14 on there?
Yeah, but that was from the previous week. I haven't updated it. We're going to end up. Why not? I forgot. We're going to end up between 9 and 15. And generally, a win or loss is going to change our position by 3 spots. If we end up 6-10, the only way we get 9th in the draft is a whole bunch of other teams lose and blah, 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 which probably
not going to happen.
Right. So we're most likely between 10 and 15. Well, that 3 spots may be enough to make the difference whether we're tempted to, draft Trey Lance because he may be there.
Right.
Or, at least the fans be tempted to do that. We know the present administration is probably going for another cornerback, but we shall see. That's the meaning of this game. Also, to me, it's who's come out to play and who's checked out already. I'm curious to see that. Who's make business decisions not to tackle like Aunt Harris seemed to last week. Versus who's come out to play and say, I want to play next year.
Well, you were saying this. We were thinking the same thing last weekend for the Saints games, David, and basically the whole defense pretty much laid down on the Superdome turf and just were big floor mats for Alvin Kamara. That was the most embarrassing performance by a Vikings defense I've seen in quite some time. I hope I never see it again. Well, not all of those guys. 54 wasn't part of that.
Well, yes, Kendricks wasn't, but a bunch of those guys, it was. Clifford says Harris has been doing that all season. It makes you wonder because and Darren and I plan on getting that on 2 Bloggers tomorrow's show. The decline of Anthony Harris is one of the topics we'll be discussing because it sure does look that way.
His grades and his eye test short.
The whole thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Drew, what are you looking for on Sunday?
Well, it's basically, I agree with what you guys just said about the mailing it in. The Vikings certainly looked that way against the Saints, and we can get into why teams do that or why, inside the locker room, the mentality of how it gets to be that, the coaches, the players, how it even gets to be guys cashing it in. I don't know, but that proves the culture's not right when that happens. But I will say this. I watched the Buccaneers-Lions game. The Lions have cashed it in. I saw a play in that game. Lee Evans ran a 20-yard square out. Brady hit him with the pass. When Evans caught it and turned upfield, he ran by the safety. And I played this back so I could make sure I was right. When he ran by the safety was actually on his cell phone talking about dinner plans he was making that night. With Evans run, I saw it. I replayed it. I rewound it now, and I saw it. And that, to me, I think it was 31-0 in the first quarter or something. And I thought, if we get that Lions team Sunday, Justin Jefferson doesn't have to worry about passing those records that we're kind of all worried about. Hopefully he gets, so he'll be on fire.
Do you remember the two records he's going for?
Something to do with 47 yards to catch Moss. I think that
it is 47 receiving yards to.
And then there's another one. There's another one.
Yes, 111 yards. If he gets 111 yards, he will pass. And I'm trying to remember who it was, but he will set a rookie wide receiver record.
You got to get him that, David. You got to get him that. You got to feed him the ball
for most yards in his rookie season. To me, that's what I would do. If I was Kubiak, it would be, all right, we're going to feed him all day. And the Lions don't have hardly squat to stop him. It should work. And just feed him. Feed the beast. Cook isn't going to be there, so feed the beast.
The guy who owns that rookie receiving record is somebody I'd never heard of from like 1962 or something like that. I think it was an obscure name because they mentioned it somewhere along the lines. No idea.
Not that it's important. Not that it's important. I would have liked to have tried to guess. But going back to what I originally said at the beginning of what I said is the Lions just seemed to cash it in. Also, they looked so slow and so terrible against the Buccaneers. It was. So we got two teams out there cashing it in. Lord knows what's going to happen.
Well, and Cliff,
a lot of bad football is what's going to be happening.
We talked about that earlier with Justin Jefferson needing the records, and as we all know, Dalvin Cook is out for this game due to the fact that his dad unexpectedly died a couple of days ago, and we all know how that goes. We joked about, and Jefferson and the pass game should get going. And then most likely that means Boone to the left, Boone up the middle, Abdullah to the right, punt.
There's a few other individual mercs in this game on offensively that I don't know how much the players actually care about this, and I don't think it plays into the game plan much. But Adam Thielen needs 132 yards to get to 1,000 receiving yards for the year for his third 1,000 receiving yard season in his career. That might be a bit tough because his best this year was 123, and so he's going to have to catch a couple of long, have some big receiving plays, I think, to get that. But it is doable. Another thing that Thielen's within measuring is the season best, the most touchdown receptions by a Vikings receiver in franchise history is 17. Moss did it in 2003 and in 1998, of course. CC did it in 95, and Thielen has 14 TDs. So if he were somehow to get 3 or maybe even 4, he could either tie or eclipse that record.
I didn't know.
And even if he gets 15, that would tie Moss for a second most ever. So it's quite doable. He could get 15. Like you said, the running game might be a little less effective without Cook there, and so they will have to throw the ball more. In which case, Thielen and JJ could be in for some big days.
Now, I didn't know that.
Darren doing his homework for the show.
I didn't know that about Thielen in the 1,000 yards.
That's a good info right there. Yeah.
If Thielen gets 1,000 yards this season, that means we will have 2 wide receivers with 1,000 yards.
It's 6 and 10.
Yeah, it's 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the last time we had 2 wide receivers with 1,000 yards?
I forgot to look this up, but I'm pretty sure it must have been either 99 or 2000.
It wasn't like 2017?
No, I don't think Diggsy had 1,000 in 2017. He was just under that.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Maybe one of our listeners can look that up. Whoever's commenting on the screen can look it up, or one of you. That's a good question. Hey, Mary. Happy New Year, Mary Fisk.
And
also, not that you guys care much or that we do, but Cousins needs 140 passing yards to throw for 4,000 for the 5th time in his career. He's already set a career best for TDs with 32, so everything's gravy on that end. But again, I don't know how much they care about that stuff. And by the 3rd quarter, we could be seeing Sean Mannion throwing to BC Johnson and Chad Beebe and handing off to Abdullah by that point. But there is some individual stuff in play for sure.
Okay. Viking Jerome asked just a second ago, could we get 3 sacks if possible? What do you think of that, Darren?
Can we get one? I'll take one first, and then I'm not saying I'm thinking we'll get 1 sack. We're not going to get 3.
Guess how many we're going to get?
0.
Nope, we're getting 4 sacks.
4.
We're going to blow everybody away.
Now,
I think we're going to surprise all of us and get 4 sacks. I don't know how it's going to come down, but I kind of feel that coming because the Lions are going to cash it in.
Well, one of the sack masters from this season is out. Fadia Denabo is out.
Sack master?
Yeah.
Is that what he said? Sack master?
How else you want to call it? He's had 4.
3.5.
Is it 3? Well, maybe 3.5.
Oh,
PFF has him listed as 4. They don't break it up by half. But
4. Come on, man.
One of them I think has 4 too.
No, he's got 3.
22 sacks. 22 sacks.
God, it's bad. It's bad.
It is bad. That's 26th in the league in case anybody's keeping score at home.
Hey, the Titans are last in sacks. They only have 15.
Yeah. If you look at that list, though, Drew, all of the teams in the top 10 in sacks, team-wise, Steelers, Rams, Bucks, Arizona, Washington, Seattle, Saints, TTFW, Miami. And then Philly is in there too. Philly's the only team that's not either clinched a playoff spot or is in contention for one. Whereas if you look at the bottom 10, Tennessee's the only one out of that whole sorry-ass crew that's in the playoffs. So I think it's safe to say that putting pressure on the quarterback matters if you're going to win.
You know, let me throw this out there real quick and piggyback off what you just said. At the end of every season, I always look at that turnover list, and it's the same way. Out of all the playoff teams are in the top, like minus maybe 1 or 2, all of them are in the top 10. So every year it's the same way with that turnover stat. So that proves that turnovers are a big difference in getting you there.
And generating sacks prevents big plays. And we looked up the numbers today. This year, the Vikings have 185 pressures as a defense total to date. And pressures is a big deal because you're moving a quarterback.
Yeah.
And only 25 sacks out of that, right? And they're in the bottom
22
sacks.
Okay. I was looking at PFF numbers, and they don't do the half. And that puts us in that 27th-ish range on the league. Last year, now, remember this year, remember these numbers, 185 and 22, okay? This last year, 304 with 52 sacks.
That's what they had the year before?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
Yep, and part of that was, of course...
That's crazy, dude. That is just nuts, that number there.
Well,
those guys right there.
That's right. That's because that's like 23 sacks gone right there.
Right.
From last year. Now,
Griffin and Hunter.
Some of the guys, yeah. And when you're looking, I had again, it's that half sack thing, I guess, with PFF, but my total was the Vikings had 48 sacks last year, which was tied for fifth in the league with the 49ers. I didn't think we were quite that high, but to go from 5th to 26 is quite a precipitous drop, as they would say.
How many sacks was it? 30 difference? A difference of 30?
Roughly. A little bit less.
52, 32, and 22, and
32? Well, 48 to 22 would be a 26 sack difference, wouldn't it?
26. I thought it was 52. Okay.
It depends. PFF numbers versus
you know what'll help numbers. Towards next year. We're looking to hang stuff on next year as being some positive notes, as well as the corners played. If you throw 26 sacks on top of what we did this year, think how much that's going to help the young corners. the corners on
yeah.
the outside, the secondary altogether, because it not only helps you on the play because the sack is a loss of yardage. It helps you on that play, but it also puts you in an advantage on the next play. Down in distance.
Mm-hmm.
Down in distance is even worse. So that will also help your corners and your safety and your secondary as a whole. So adding 26 sacks to this team will definitely, help their defensive woes.
Also adding in, I know what was the difference in pressures there, Davey, because we were over 300 last year.
It was,
and sometimes you can, some teams will get more sacks. Their percentage of sacks to their pressures is actually quite high. Like they probably get more sacks than, even though they're not generating as many pressures as you would expect. Like Dave was saying, pressures is key too. You're moving the quarterback off a spot, making him throw under duress. Even if you don't get the sack, if you get him moving and throwing where he's not comfortable, it's got to help.
Well, that guy quit talking about the Ohio State game. God damn it! Before I shut this whole thing down. Stop.
He didn't say anything other than
Ted was late.
Spielman's. Yeah, Ted, we're not talking about that game. Drew's got it on pause.
Darren, the hurries and the pressures, I should have mentioned that. That's probably more important than the actual sacks because you get more of those.
Right, and the difference is 120.
That's going to help the secondary. And I know the secondary's been torched all year. They've been getting beaten up all year, beaten to a pulp between the media and our shows. And I guess we're kind of media, but our shows, anything, a pass rush, like Marv Levy says, it'll help your pass defense. You get a good pass rush. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and for I guess for Sunday's game, again, how much anybody cares, but Stafford is questionable at this point.
Yes,
so
throwing up the Lions injury report, you have.
Why even play him? I don't get it.
Stafford questionable and Frank Ragnow.
Their center's out?
He's questionable.
Wow, that might be.
Play him.
Galladay's out for wide receiver.
Chase Daniel in there. Mm-hmm. But I would. My read on that was, and as usual, I could be way off. Would be if Stafford wasn't going to play, they would have already said that he's not going to play. I would think. Because so I am expecting him to be out there on Sunday. How long he'll last, I don't know. He didn't last very long in the Bucs game, and I don't know whether they pulled him because he was really beat up or the score got out of hand quickly and they just said, screw this, there's no point in having him out there. Right. But I do expect him to be out there and not Chase Daniel, although could we stop Chase Daniel? All Daniel would have to do would hand the ball to DeAndre Swift, and that's probably a touchdown right there these days, the way we're tackling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, how do you stop anybody?
The Lions have Darrell Bevell as their interim coach.
Yeah.
He's going to want to win. Now, I'm already hearing from the crossover shows that most likely the whole crew is getting canned, and they'll be looking for a new coach and GM after the season. So
the Vikings?
No, the Lions.
Hold your horses, Drew. As a Lions fan, which we are not, and I'm not, but there was no way as a Lions fan you'd want to see your ownership or the new GM hired Bevell. Right? You want somebody new with some new juice in there, not somebody from the previous regime. Bevell's just playing out the string right now, and he'll be like an offensive coordinator somewhere else next year.
Hey, Raymond, Happy New Year's to you. We already discussed the draft position. The best we can do is 9th with a whole bunch of other teams winning that won't happen, and the worst we can do is 15th with a win. We'll probably be between 10 and 15.
When you want to let me ask Darren a question, I have a draft question for Darren. When we get to that, I don't want to disrupt I know you have a carefully planned, navigated system of how you do these shows, so I don't want to.
Well, here we have G-Shave.
G-Shave! G-Shave's in the house!
Vikings should be looking for a new coach this season.
I like
They might be if we.
They could be. We don't know. It's we were discussing that at a Climbing the Pocket Network planning meeting today. If head coach and Rick Spielman, GM, get fired, we're going to have a lot of content for you, fired up, ready to go, because we'll be talking.
But
we don't
boys,
expect it. It's a low chance, but it's possible.
What do you think? Sorry, playing the host here, but what do you think has to happen on Sunday for the Wilfs to even consider canning Zimmer? Like, how bad
they got to get their ass whipped and their tits licked 60-3 to have it be. That's what I think. If they get embarrassed out there by the Detroit Lions, that would be. They might be teetering right now, but if they got the doors beat off them, I would seriously think that may happen. But it'd have to be a big blowout by the Lions in my eyes.
So you're thinking it'd have to be like a 25-point plus loss.
Yes.
Or maybe worse.
Maybe worse.
Yeah.
Because considering the Lions have mailed it in already, you let a team that's cashed in come in and whip your ass. That doesn't sit well with any fan in America. I don't care how much you like Zimmer.
No, and it would probably, you'd have to think of also what does that say about the players that you've got there if you bring back the guy that they're not playing for.
Huge point.
How much are they going to believe in him in 2021 if they basically laid down and died at the end of the season? But
that's what makes this game on Sunday interesting to watch, is to see those type of dynamics.
Here's another question. It's not a draft question, and I mentioned this on the Gjallarhorn site, but you guys have all played sports at various levels, as have I. Individually, I just can't get it in my head how, even if you hated the coach, even if you hated his guts, didn't believe in what he was doing, but I'm lining up against Marvin Jones. I'm Jeff Gladney. I don't want Marvin Jones to embarrass me. I don't want him to catch one pass against me, even if I hate the coach. So I don't understand this laying down and not caring and not making half-hearted attempts to tackle even at the end of the year. It just does. I don't understand how you as an athlete can have that kind of a performance. There's got to be some personal pride, but yet every year at this time we seem to see teams do that. Do you understand that sort of thinking? I don't.
I think it's a locker room thing. If you're on a defense with Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson back with the Giants and those guys and Jim Burt, you're not going to quit because you're going to get your ass beat in the locker room. The locker room carries a lot of that quitting mentality. If you have a strong locker room, I think it's all controlled by that. Yeah, but they may say, even if you hate Zimmer, you're playing next to me, and if you go out there and lay an egg, that I'm going to whip your ass. I think it is a locker room thing.
Yeah, but I agree with Darren. Playing sports, I didn't care what the coach thought at the moment. I may not like him. He may be an ass, but I'm playing for me, and I'm not going to put a half-hearted attempt out there knowing that may cost me a scholarship, or it may cost me in this case a contract. It definitely has for Ant Harris. Do you think anybody's going to sign him for a big dollar contract next year? I don't think so. Not after this. We just played him, on the whatever you call it, the $11 million. Yeah, on the franchise tag. He didn't earn anything next year, and that's a personal pride thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to play for the guy next, if you have no respect of who you play with, then you don't care whether you lay down. If you have nobody to answer to on the defense, I mean, the Vikings lost a ton.
Yeah, but you always cut yourself.
They lost Griffin. They lost a bunch of leaders on this team. That if a guy wants to lay down, he has to answer to Wanham. I mean, he's not going to Shamar Stephen. You don't give a shit about those guys. They're not. If he hates the coach, he hates the coach, and the dynamics involved are like Stephon Diggs. He didn't like Zimmer, and he wanted out, so he got out. But if you have guys, I don't know. I just think the stronger the locker room, the less chance you have of guys cashing it in. And I think some guys have come into this league about the me attitude. They're going to cash it in regardless because that's what they. It's a whole different dynamic.
Well, we heard Matt Khalil. Matt Khalil, had the first great rookie season, made Pro Bowl, and then went downhill afterwards. And we find out afterwards he doesn't like football. He just does it before the money. And he turned that into a second and third contract because
Sure.
he did it.
It's a
And
good
there was
example.
times
It's
that
actually a really good example.
he would, just, okay, I'm blocking. Now, you bait me today, Everson. Too bad, And that, to me, drives me crazy because that's not how I was playing sports at all, period. That would drive me insane to see that sort of attitude. But you're right. It takes leadership because once a little bit of that seeps in, unless you have leadership to kick it all out, it can sit there and fester. And who knows?
But isn't that where Harrison and Kendricks come in?
You would think so. But
And your head coach.
But Kendricks is out.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's got his mouth and
He's
voice
on the
isn't
he's
broken.
on the sidelines. Yeah,
Right,
He's going to practices.
But we lost the rah guys and the ones that hold responsible. Everson obviously was the rah guy. We had B-Rob that would be a good leader. You had
Well, look.
in the past we had the ever-aging corner that did great. And they've been released, and nobody has stepped up.
What do you say about Zimmer? He may be the worst defense he's ever had, but what kind of sense do you have in your head when you go to the podium and say that? You don't say that about your team. Come on, dude. What a fool. That's a foolish thing to say. You don't say it. As a head coach, you don't say it.
It doesn't care how emotional you are. You need to control yourself at press conferences and not say things like that.
Idiotic thing to say, especially if you want to go into this next year coaching this team. Shut up. Say it's on you, even if it is. I mean, come on, dude. You got a future to look forward to. This is the worst defense I ever, which is like saying I got shitty players. Players don't want to be told they're shitty.
In the offseason, you could be doing it and going, doing a report and goes, that was my worst ranked defense I've ever had, but we're improving and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I had a bunch of young guys. I had a bunch of injuries. We had to make do, but we're improving. Right?
The effort was
then all you're doing is stating history. This is the reason why. You don't go out after a game because you're upset because your defense got spanked and chastise. You should never chastise somebody in public. The only time you do that is if there's an emergency. It's always in private, right?
Or if you're at GMG.
Well, we're different. We're press, whatever.
No, I agree with you, Dave. I agree with you.
You should always praise in public. And if there's excuse to be made as a leader, you take that blame and say, hey, it's up to me. We'll try to fix it next time. We'll get better.
I'd like to get Darren's take on that whole Zimmer thing when he said at the press conference about the defense. Darren, what do you think about that? Not a big deal, whatever. I mean, how do you feel? What do you think about that?
I think it was. I'd mentioned this before. Also, I think I made a comment on our group, but I was saying I think to me, and I've done a little bit of coaching, not at a pro level or even a minor league level, but sometimes you gotta. I feel I'm one of these more of these old school guys I feel it's okay to ream out your players every now and then if you don't think that they're putting out the required effort in the game or they're making dumb mental mistakes that they shouldn't be making. The physical errors get made all the time in the game, and no matter how well you try to coach them up. So sometimes you have to raise your voice, get in your player's face a little bit, and try to motivate them and make them realize that what's happening on the court right now or on the field is not acceptable, and we need to fix it. But do that during the game. After the game, and I've never had to do a press conference with several thousand people listening in, but during the game, you should be falling on your sword. It's on me. It's up to me to fix it. We'll fix it. We'll look at the tape, the old Leslie Frazier thing that we always used to hate. But there was a reason he said that, right? Because it was not going to be controversial and it wouldn't piss off his players. So do that during the press conference and then work on correcting stuff in practice like you would be. And maybe occasionally you have to, if things get really bad, you have to call out a guy like McVay did with Goff this year, just saying, listen, our quarterback has to take we're a playoff team. We're a Super Bowl, have Super Bowl aspirations, and our quarterback is not taking care of the football. He's got to take care of the football. Oh, that's different than saying he sucks.
Right. He's not saying the worst quarterback I've ever had. He didn't say that. There's a constructive way to do it and still rip him. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. That's well said.
Hey, Donnie, thanks for joining us, and you are correct.
I didn't see his comment. What is he correct about?
Donnie Halverson.
Yeah.
The Vikings did not fold up shop. No, they did not.
No, they didn't. And
they played through a lot of adversity this year, and we want to see that continue. We want to see that. If you think about all the rookies we had to play, that will be back next year. And I'm not talking about the guys we pulled from 7-Eleven because we literally had nobody, but the rookies having to play that a bunch of them that normally wouldn't have. That preps us without any preseason and all the limited, camp and everything else. That preps us. That's a good thing for next year. And learning to overcome that adversity of that 1-5 start will help in the future. If you want to take a positive look at some of the things that the Vikings went through this last season, that is one of them.
Who's going to be playing corner for us on Sunday? So we got Gladney, Dantzler's out, Chris Jones is out.
Boyd,
so it's
balls on your dome.
Out?
No, Boyd's out. He's on injured IR.
Yeah, Boyd's on IR.
So it's going to be Gladney and Harrison Hand.
Dantzler is out. Damn.
I guess Carl Lee, we're going to call him up. Have him
I'd take Lee anytime over some of these stiffs.
Good question.
I think it's going to
Gladney, obviously.
Gladney, Hand, and Maben's the only other guy.
Is it?
Dylan Maben.
Oof. Like I said,
so when they go into nickel, or when they go into dime, are they going to have to go like Gladney, Hand, Maben, and
Nickerson?
Yeah.
Nickerson.
Like is Anthony Harris? Anthony Harris is going to be covering Marvin Jones or something like that. Like
Colquitt will be out at corner.
It's just. It's bad.
It's a good question. I can't even name two guys that we were going to start.
And then on the defensive end with Effetti out, you've got
and Jalen Holmes is out. He plays a little defensive end now and then.
Yeah, you got Wanham, and we may see Lynch.
We got Wanham. He's good. Yeah,
Lynch. Yeah,
James
I know it. I read today.
James Lynch will go to defensive end and get 3 fucking sacks. Watch. You watch.
I'll take it.
No, let's just say, where's that been all year? Why isn't he playing him?
Well, and I saw a tweet today where he was called up to the active. So
there's Zimmer.
Hey, Stan, thanks. Yes, the ex-Miami guy.
Who is that? Tankersley?
One of the corners.
Oh, yeah, Donnie just said Tankersley.
Tankersley. Perfect name for playing the corner for us. Tankersley.
It will be a challenge. And then on offense, Riley Reiff looks to be out. He wasn't on the injury report because he's on the COVID list. And there's a possibility return, but he supposedly told Zimmer today that he was sick. Now, whether it was COVID or just cold, we don't know. And to go win the team for him, or win the game for him, which means
score more. Darren, Don Coryell said, we got guys hurt. We got to score more than they do. I don't care what you do. Score more. You got to score more. It's up to the offense.
And earlier this week in Kubiak's press conference, I think he said if Reiff is in fact out, Hill will play left tackle.
I read that as well.
They won't move Ezra over.
There's not enough weed available to make me watch a Kubiak press conference. That's terrible.
Anyways,
you know you're a Vikings junkie when you're watching Kubiak pressers, yeah.
Well, folks, have you got any how do you think this game's going to end up?
I want to see some predictions from our listeners out there putting up these messages on the screen. Shoot me some scores. That's not a score.
Yes, we want to win.
Of course we want to win.
Clifford said Reiff is done with the Vikings. I'm not so sure. He's under contract for next year. Now, the big deal about Reiff is he's like 2 snaps shy of a bonus.
What does it say about your line when Reiff's the best guy in your offensive line? What does that say?
It doesn't say a whole lot. It should be interesting to see if the Vikings actually
played really well this year.
He
played really well this year.
No, he did, but overall, that's your best guy?
Yeah, but if he played really well, he played really well, right? I don't know. I'm sure.
Here we go. G-Shave.
There we go. Get a prediction. I like G-Shave's prediction.
Is that G-Shave or Reggie Adams?
That's G-Shave.
It's G-Shave.
Ice G-Shave. He's a rapper.
It's a Reggie Adams
prediction. Stan Jones played bass for Led Zeppelin. Remember him, Stan Jones?
37-16.
Started his own band. He played with Primus for a while too. Stan Jones and Viking Jerome. We'll never forget Viking Jerome. No. He was a bartender at the Old Jack out in Minnesota. He used to get liquored up with Chuck Foreman and Ed Marinero. We remember. I don't know about Cliff. Look, everybody's predicting Viking victory.
Yeah. Here we go. And Bailey misses it. Bailey's questionable for this game, Donnie, with a back issue. He thinks he's going to make it, but they did activate. They've got a kicker that they activated up to the practice squad and up to the deal because they can bring basically everybody up this week.
I don't give
because whoever's out can go on IR.
Is that what the hell's his name? Bedlow or
something like that? I'd have to look. Here, Ted's talking 23-17.
Oh, DC. We got DC rolling in the house tonight, baby. This is great. Great.
But it's just, who knows? Who knows?
It could be 52-48 at halftime. These two defenses.
Drew, I don't want to drag this.
What?
Yeah. I didn't, Drew. I didn't want to drag this on, but my draft question, because you delve into the college players quite a bit, as Dave and I know. But what kind of a player do you think? What's the difference in the type of player we can get if we're picking 9th as opposed to 15th? What difference is this going to make for the Vikings?
That's close to the question I had with you. I think. Well, of course, it's positionally speaking. That's a big question when you're talking position. I mean, granted, you're not going for any low-tier guard at that position or some of your offensive line, maybe a tackle at that spot. But you're talking strictly quarterback, it might make a world of difference if you want the Zach Wilson kid from BYU or Trey Lance.
If he makes it down that far, Trey Lance is likely.
I think Spicoli, Lawrence from Clemson, and Fields from Ohio State. Not only are they going to be the first 2 quarterbacks taken, I think they're going off the board 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. So depending on if you want that guy, if you want Lance or if you want Wilson, 9 or 15 might make a big difference with that. Otherwise, you can get the top linebacker, you can get the top corner, you certainly get the top safety, but usually you got to be a real ass kicker to be in the team for a safety. Usually your first safety goes off the board maybe late first or early second is how I mainly see it. Unless you're just an outstanding, can't miss safety, you're going to go in the teens or something, but you rarely see those safeties go really, really high. But, I don't know. Usually your top 2 tackles are gone by then, so you're taking the third tackle. The quarterback situation, it's really dependent on what happens with those guys. I mean, the Vikings, that was let me segue
Mary
this
says,
into what
think Moss and Carter. What if they go for that third wide receiver?
Let me segue your question into what I had for you, Darren. Let me segue this into what I had for you. But defensively speaking, I know the top linebackers usually always there between 9 and 15, always. So you can get the number 1 linebacker in the draft, being he's not a Simmons type guy, the hybrid guy, but Micah Parsons, those kind of guys that you can get them. Let me ask you this though, Darren. This is the question I actually had for Chris Gates, but we couldn't get to it because we ran out of time. With the Vikings not having that second round pick, with them not having that second round pick, doesn't it feel like if the pick 9 to 14, whatever it may be, don't you kind of feel that that's a trade back because they don't have the second round pick?
Oh, God.
I've been
There's a
thinking
huge
a lot
gap.
of.
Say they pick 14th and they don't pick again to the third. That's a huge gap. So
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about a lot about that too the past few weeks, and I haven't done the math because we haven't determined the draft positions and anything. But yeah, if you were wherever the Vikings pick in the first round and then not to pick until the third round, that would be like how many players are you bypassing by not having somebody in the second round? In which case, that means if the Vikings aren't looking for a quarterback of the future, and sadly, I'm pretty sure that they won't be. So let's say Trey Lance or Wilson or both, probably highly unlikely Wilson is, but like you say, Lance, let's say the Vikings had the 10th pick and Lance is still there and you got some other team that wants a quarterback. Yeah, that's where the trade back and get a second rounder and maybe something else. You'd have to look at the
get a pretty
draft.
big haul for the 10th round pick.
Yeah, like you'd have to look at the draft value charts, Chase Stewart's draft value chart to kind of see what you could get for that. But yeah, I think the trade back is prime depending on where we are and who is available, and then you can get that second back. Because let's face it, the Vikings got lots of needs, especially on the defensive end, and they don't have they're probably not going to have a lot of cash to replenish to fill some of those needs in free agency. So how are you going to do that? Well, you're going to have to do it. Either keep the terrible guys you have, which I would prefer that we didn't, or you draft a whole bunch of new guys to work with the bunch of young guys you already drafted. Hope Lynch and Wanham step it up a big amount, and you hope that some of the younger studs that you get earlier become better. Also, either make your depth better than it was this year, or they are better than Wanham and Lynch are now.
Here is another quick nightmarish scenario. Say, and then I'll turn it back over to Dave. Say you don't have a second round pick. You don't have a second rounder. If you miss on that first rounder and don't have a second rounder, that seems like a big problem.
Oh, yes, it does. Now, before I go, I've posted this 3 times already. I didn't want to skip Alejandro on this one.
Okay.
Are we going to sign Wilson back? Alejandro, we're going to discuss that after the season's over, but the quick answer is I doubt it. For me, that's my opinion. So, but we will get into it sometime following Sunday as we go into the off season, and we'll be having discussions on off season programming because we're not going to stop. We're going to be here for you.
And that's a good topic, Wilson. Sign him or not, and how much it would take.
A lot of players. There's a lot
his
of
his price has gone up for sure.
And whether he's actually worth it or not.
Yeah. Yep. For sure.
Yep. With that, any last words there, Darren?
Just that I'm looking forward to a very mediocre to poor game on Sunday. And that hopefully doesn't put me to sleep by the second half. As soon as I see number 4 Sean Mannion in the game, I'm turning off. I'm going to another game. I just can't watch that again for the second straight year in the last regular season game.
Drew.
Not going to do it.
I am going to say meow, meow, Viking cow. Thanks for everybody who tuned in and posted messages. I love that. I'm especially happy that we had the chance to visit with Darren Campbell. It's been a long time since I've been able to sit and talk with you on the show. Thank you so much for being on, and I hope the Vikings finish strong. At least we can go into the offseason saying, yeah, we beat the Lions. So we'll see.
4-2 in the division.
Anyways, thank you, Donnie. Catch us tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central. As Darren and I get together, we talk 2 old bloggers, and as we
What's
preview...
my time? I don't do the Central. What is the hippie time? Hippie time. What is it? What time's your show tomorrow?
If it's 1 o'clock Central, it's going to be 11 o'clock a.m. hippie time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
thank you.
As we previewed, one of our topics will be the decline of Anthony Harris. There'll probably be a couple more. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow for 2 old bloggers. Until then, Good Morning Gjallarhorn appreciates all of you joining us. continue to have a happy and safe new year. And let's hope and pray 2021 is better than 2020.
Do the gritty.
That's gritty. Is that what the gritty is? Or-
Y'all have a great night. Go Vikings!
Gritty!
Cool.
What about...
Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.